Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Nicole Bonner with Thrive Chiropractic Coaching, and today is Wednesday. So it's our Wednesday workshop. Happy hump day. And there is a reason why we do Wednesday workshops, and that is because it is Wednesday. It's in the middle of the week. And if there's any time that we all need a little bit of extra oomph or some motivation, I would say that it's got to be on Wednesday. So this week we've been talking about, I don't know if you guys made the Monday live. I'm not sure if you guys were there. If you guys were, great. If not, we are just going to build today on what we talked about Monday. So go back, watch that recording. This is going to come out to you guys either later today, which is Wednesday, if not tomorrow. But today we're going to be building on developing influence. And your influence is so very important in growing your practice. It is important for so many reasons because you can influence your patients, you can influence your team, you can influence your office managers, you can influence other like-minded businesses, you can influence other people in our industry. And developing the skill of influence, by the way, it is a skill, so it is something that you can learn and something that you can develop. By learning the skill of influence, you can use that skill in your personal lives as well. Like, how many of you guys want to have a positive influence over your children? How many of you guys would like to have a positive influence in your marriage, right? And so this stuff goes a long way. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about somebody in your life who has influenced you, right? And so now some of you might be sitting there like, oh, shoot, Doc. I've had some not great influences in my life. And I would say, yeah, I think probably we all have, right? I mean, we've certainly have had other peers, right? And other friends, especially when we were teenagers or in college, that maybe we were not influenced in the right direction. We were influenced in the wrong direction, right? How many of you guys have been influenced in the wrong direction in your life? Raise your hand. We all have. It's happened to all of us, right? And there's certainly been many mentors and teachers and parents and pastors that have influenced us in the right direction, right? And so the one thing about influence that I want to just kind of clear out of the way here is that sometimes when people hear the word influence, they get it confused with the word manipulation. Because the definition of the word influence is the ability to shape people's ideas, beliefs, and behaviors as you desire, right? And so the one thing that I want to make sure that we don't do is I don't want to confuse influence with manipulation, because surely you can use these skills to be able to manipulate people to go in a bad direction or in a negative way, but you can also use these skills to influence people in a positive way, to lead people in a positive way, right? And so, Roberto Monaco, great example. He has a whole course, a whole weekend course. It's called Influencing from the Front. Influencing from the Front. I've taken that before. By the way, as a total aside, was not planning on mentioning this, but it's actually a really great weekend course if you guys get the opportunity to take it. I took it, and it has taken my speaking definitely to the next level in helping me to prepare my thoughts sequentially, helping me to create an experience for not only my patients in the office, but people outside of my office and groups, clubs, organizations in my community. And what I learned from Roberto was amazing, because I was taught the skill of how to influence people from the front, from the stage, right? In a very short amount of time. Now, in the world of chiropractic, that's really important. And the reason why it's so important is because, first of all, what you have is a gift. What you have in these hands is a gift, guys. And that gift was meant to be shared not only to a small group of people, it was meant to be shared to your community. It was meant to be shared with the world. Your gift was meant to be shared with humanity. And I believe that if we were to influence or change people's minds about, or change the masses' minds about chiropractic, I believe that the course of humanity would be changed. Do you guys agree? Do you guys agree that what we have here, the thing we call chiropractic, is so powerful that if everybody on the planet, or even just the majority of the people on the planet, even if only 50% of the people on the planet really got the big idea of chiropractic, do you believe that the world would be different? I certainly do. And so that's why this stuff is so important. You know, from our little tiny perspectives, in our little tiny practices, in our little tiny four walls, right? We can look at how influence can take one patient and convert that patient into a lifelong lifestyle chiropractic patient. But when we really think about the big picture and the big impact that has, because if that person gets it, then they can influence another person to get it, and then they can influence another person to get it, and they can influence another person to get it, and so on and so forth, that one person now became exponential. Isn't that the big idea? So influence. So influence, it can be used for bad, just like anything else in life. I gave the example one time. I was speaking at a conference one time, and I didn't bring a real gun with me, of course, but I had a prop of like a fake gun, like a water gun I brought, and I said, is this a good, or is this bad? And some people in the audience, they were like, well, it's good. And then there are many people in the audience that said the gun was bad. And really, it's both, right? It's the intent in which you use it for. So influence is kind of like the same way. You certainly can use it for negative. You can use the skills for manipulation, or you can use it for good, for positive. And so that's what we're going to use it for. Gandhi said that power is obtained through two things. So power is obtained through two things. I'm not speaking very well, am I? Number one, it's either the fear of punishment or acts of love, right? Fear of punishment or acts of love. So when we're influencing, we're doing three things. We're doing three things when we're influencing. Number one, we're teaching people how to think. Number two, we're challenging people to grow. And number three, we're going to model the way. Three things, right? So let's talk about number one, teaching people how to think. So if you want to impact the world with chiropractic, the first thing that you have to change before you change their spine, you have to change their mind. I don't know, somebody else said that. I don't want to steal somebody's quote. It might have been Danny Knowles. Danny, if you're listening and you said that, I'm giving you total credit for it. I can't remember where I heard that from. I know I've heard it before, but it is so true. Before you change their spine, you have to change their mind. You have to change their belief system about what they believe chiropractic is. And the first reason why you have to do that is for integrity, right? Because here's the reality of your situation. 99.9% of the people that walk into your practice are walking into your practice because they believe that you are the cure, that you are the answer to their neck and to their back pain. 99.9% of the people are going to walk in that way. Okay. Why is that an integrity problem? Or why is that a potential integrity problem? Well, because you're like over here as a chiropractor, if you are a chiropractor, if you are a chiropractor, then you're kind of standing there like, well, come on in, because I'm going to I'm going to look for subluxations. We're going to detect subluxations in your spine. And if you have subluxations, we're going to clear those subluxations out so that your brain can better communicate with your body. And your body has an innate, inborn, internal wisdom that is going to heal itself. And can you see how those are two very different belief systems? So if you do not have the ability or you do not have the skill to influence this belief system over here, you are going to create eventually a problem in the relationship. The problem is gonna come out as, oh, well, I went to that chiropractor and chiropractic doesn't work. He didn't fix my problem. Or the other problem is going to come out where I went to that chiropractor, my pain went away, and I never need to get my spine checked again, right? Or you might get a bad review. Why? Because when people think that they're coming to you for back pain and you think, you believe that you're correcting subluxation so that they could be a healthy individual, and you don't, and their back pain doesn't go away, can you see how that's going to lead to mistrust? That's going to lead to possible bad reviews, things like that. How do I know? Because it's happened, right? I've been in practice 20 years, right? So before I learned how to do this stuff well, things like that would happen, right? And so the first thing that we needed to learn is how to get them to think, how do we change their belief systems first? The second thing is challenging people to grow. So one of the keys to creating a lifelong relationship with your patients is to always give them the opportunity for growth in their health journey. Always giving them an opportunity for growth in their health journey. What does that mean? Well, number one is there are 6 human needs. According to Tony Robbins, there are 6 human needs. The first human need is the need for certainty. Your second human need is the need for uncertainty. The third human need is the need for significance. The fourth human need is the need for love and connection. The fifth human need is the need for growth. That's what we're talking about right now, growth. And the sixth human need is the need for people to contribute to others. So we're talking about the need for growth. So when you know these human needs and you can meet these human needs, patients will actually never leave your practice. Why? Because their needs are being met. Okay. And so the need for growth in practice, I'll think of a couple of examples, give you a couple of examples here. But one example is always setting milestones for the patient for going to the next level. One of the things, I don't do this in my practice, but one of the things that a friend of mine who's a huge CBP, spinal corrective chiropractor, does is they have like levels of care. And when patients reach a certain level and go into the next level, the patient receives like a belt, like a colored belt, just like in karate, right? So every level, just like in karate, every level that they master in their correction, they get a belt, right? So always creating opportunities for your patients to grow, to go to the next level, always challenging them to do better. Now, at first, the word challenge, that can kind of sound a little bit confrontational now, can't it? Right? Because some people, are like really comfortable in their lives. They don't like to be challenged, right? But if you guys can get them past that and challenge them to go to the next level, these patients will stay with you forever. Number 3 is model the way. There's the old cliche is what's the old cliche, you guys? The old cliche is do as I say, not as I do, right? That's the bad cliche. That's opposite of what I'm trying to tell you to do. But anyway, is be a model, right? Act as if, behave um, as if as if this is what you want to see in your patients, right? Do the things that you want your patients to do. Act the way you want your patients to, right? So guys, here's one for you. I'm going to hold you to the fire a little bit. Here's my way of challenging you, right? Challenging you to grow. And Are you doing all of the things that you ask your patients to do? Are you getting checked regularly on a certain day at a certain time? Is your family getting checked regularly at a certain day on a certain time? Are you doing if you're a CBP doctor or whatever kind of chiropractor you are you doing the rehabs and the spinal remolding and the home care that you're asking your patients to? Is your team doing it? Is your team under regular chiropractic care? Are they doing the things that they need to do to keep their spines healthy? So are you all congruent? That's where integrity comes in. Are you doing the things, are you behaving in the way that you want your patients or anybody else for that matter to behave? Like your children, right? Your children are always watching you. And and your behavior, whether you know it or not, is a model for your patient or for your children. Well, same is true for your patients. Your patients are watching you no matter if you believe that they are or not, whether you're aware of it or not. Even the things that you think that you're doing behind closed doors, I don't know how this happens, but people know, right? People know your behavior. So model the way. If to quote my husband, just check yourself before you wreck yourself. All right, I love that quote. And make sure that you are leading by example. That was the cliche, by the way, that I was thinking of. Leading by example, right? There's a reason why people always say lead by example. This is the reason why, because it increases your level of influence with the people that you're trying to lead. All righty. So how do you know when you have influence? So how do you know if you have influence? Well, number one is you'll notice that people will listen to you, that your patients will listen to you. So people often ask me when I'm coaching, how do you tell a patient they need to bring their spouse to the report of findings? And I'm like, I just tell them. And people are like, well, they just listen to you? And I'm like, yeah, they just listen. It's that simple. So when you develop influence with people, they just seem to naturally and organically want to follow you. Now, see, that's a big difference there because how many of you guys how many of you guys ever felt like you had to twist somebody's arm to come to a visit? How many of you guys ever felt like you had to pull teeth to get somebody to come to your workshop? Right? Have you guys ever felt like that? So you should not have to feel like that. But if you develop the skill of influence, you will notice that people will just naturally do what you tell them to do. Why? Because people trust you. Why? Because people have faith in you. Why? Because of the three things that we just talked about. Because you're constantly challenging them to go to a higher level. You're holding them to a higher standard. Why? Because you're holding yourself to a higher standard. Why? Because you've taught them how to think. Why? Because you've introduced new belief systems to them. You've introduced a new way of thinking, a new perspective that they never thought of before, that they never understood before, right? You've modeled the way for them, right? And so when you sit down with a patient and you say, this is what your care, the health investment for your care is going to be, XYZ, people say, okay. And it's because you have a certain level of influence with them. Number two, you're going to notice when you have influence with people, you're going to notice that you become a better leader. You're going to notice that people start coming to you for solutions to problems. Okay. When you start noticing that random people, lots of people just start coming to you, Doc, I have this problem. What would you do? I have this problem. How would you handle this? Right? That means that they see you as a leader. When people start asking you, hey, would you come speak to my group club, my organization? When a pastor asks you, hey, will you help me start a health ministry? That just happened, which was totally awesome. By the way, that's just totally aside, but I'm just super stoked about that. But that's how you know that you're developing this skill called influence, is when people see you as a leader and they come to you to solve problems and they come to you to lead their flock, right? How else do you know? Well, numbers. Numbers don't lie. You make more sales, you make more conversions, right? So in our office, we have a 90% conversion rate with new patients. So when you become a better influencer, you have a higher level of conversion, right? You have more sales that happen, whatever industry that you're in. And you're more likely, when you develop the skill of influence, you're more likely to own your own business, to become a CEO. Now, that's important. Most of you out there that are probably watching this right now, you're in the beginning phases of practice. So there's 4 phases of practice. There's practice launch, there's practice growth, there's practice scaling, and then there's selling, right? And so you guys are probably in practice launch, practice growth kind of phases. But you're going to get to a point where you're going to get to practice scaling and then possibly eventually selling, right? And so how do you know that you develop influence here is, well, when you start noticing that you have enough influence over a team that your team can run your practice without you actually being there. And that's the CEO level. All right. So when you have influence, you really step out of the role of working in your practice. And now you start stepping into a role of working on your practice. But in order to do that, you have to have a tremendous level of influence over your team, because the team has to be able to run the practice exactly the way that you ran it when you were working in the practice. Does that make sense? So influence is your key. If you're like at a place where you're like, and once again, most of you probably aren't here yet, but if you're at a place where you're like, man, I've grown my practice, I've opened my practice, I've grown my practice, now I want to scale, I want to open another practice, or I want to start another business, or I want to own another company, or I want to become an investor, and you want to start scaling this practice, you have to have a grip on this influence thing, because if you do not have grip influence, you're going to lose total control of what's happening inside of the practice when you're not there. So now you know when you have influence. Now, how do you actually develop influence? All right, well, number 1, people will support what they create. People will support what they create. So people will be the biggest supporters of the projects that they actually create. So what does that mean? So if you want to influence people, give them something to create, give them something to contribute to. Wow, there was that word. That's the 6th human need, contribution. Now you're meeting another need, right? How can you do that with your patients? How can you give your patients something to support? Well, asking for a referral is a means of giving them an opportunity for contribution. Asking them if you can come talk to their group, their club, their organization, their church, their business, is giving them an opportunity to create a program or a program or a process that you can come to and create a program that you can all be a part of, that they can support, that's good for their employees, that's good for their community, that's good for their group, that's good for their church. Does that make sense? Say yes if it does. The second thing is figure out what people want. This is the simplest thing in sales. This is the simplest thing. You guys ready to convert 90% of the people that walk through your door? Are you ready for this? Write this down. Find out what they want and just give it to them. Now, I don't mean neck and back pain. That's the surface of what they want. I mean, spend enough time, create a strong enough relationship with your patient that you figure out what their deepest desire is, and then you give it to them. You deliver it to them. They will not only convert into care, but they'll never leave your practice. Number 3, to develop influence is take note, especially develop influence in your team. Take note to see how the members of your team like to work together, and then put them in that sequence, right? So it's really a lot about like just listening and paying attention to the details, paying attention to what's happening, what's going on with your team members. What do they like to do? What are they not liking to do? They're not going to tell you, by the way. You have to figure this. You kind of have to hear what they're not saying, right? Get skilled in developing in the art of listening. That's hearing what they're not saying. And number 4, if you want to become an influencer, have a giving mindset. Have a giving mindset. So, what is this really all about? I had a conversation with a client the other day, and she's new in practice. She's very green, very, very green. And she was frustrated with something. She was frustrated with something that I said. And what was coming out of her mouth was, and blah blah blah, my practice, and this is all about me, and why should I take my time out, why should I take extra time out for that person that missed their appointment? And it was, and every other word that I heard was my, me, I, me, my. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Who are you in this really for? Is it for you? And I would say there's a certain percentage that it is, and that's good too, because I know personally I'm very fulfilled when I'm taking care of patients. It's fulfilling for me. Or is it for them? And so it has to be for both, because when it really becomes about them and truly in your heart of hearts showing up to serve them, people will follow you to the end of the earth, no matter what it is that you're doing. So there you go, guys. That's how you develop influence. So that's how you think about influence. That's what influence is. That's how you know if you have influence, and that's how you know how to develop influence. All right, guys. Hopefully this Wednesday workshop blessed you. Hopefully it blessed you. I'm hoping it gets out on Wednesday. It may not. It may get out on Thursday, but what the heck? At least you guys get the information. Please comment. Let me know if you guys are getting stuff out of this. So please make sure that you comment about this. And we will see you next Monday. Don't forget, Monday is Mindset Monday. It's Facebook Live in our group, turning students and chiropractors into business owners. It's Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Try to catch that, guys. I love doing those lives, but they've been kind of slow lately, so I have no one to talk to. So help me out. Throw a sister a bone here and get on those lives, chat back and forth with me. Let's create a dialogue and a conversation. And then, of course, next Wednesday workshop, we'll have some good treats for you guys next Wednesday as well. All right, many blessings. Have a fantastic week.